Elder Scrolls Online. I did one video about this game already, so why not make another? If you choose to play the game, this video is for you, because you may wonder which class should you play, which race should you choose, and which alliance? Good questions with many but simple answers. Of course, I am being stupid, my ADHD ass will make those simple answers complicated, but more so for me than you. So, I'm the Steel Merchant, and today I will tell you about the classes and races of Elder Scrolls Online. There are 9 races in ESO, 10 if you count Imperial race. However, I will be not counting this race. Why? Because it is a race behind a paywall. You need to buy a DLC which is not included in the Elder Scrolls Online subscription. That's not worth it. If it comes to playing each race for every alliance, there are 3 alliances, you also need to buy a DLC which isn't included in the subscription. Yep! Happy! We love this kind of thing, right? No, it is a terrible thing and needs to be changed. However, alliances, they only matter on 2 maps. In the Imperial City and Cyrodiil maps. Those are PvP maps. But now, for races. There are Bretons, Orcs and Redguard for the Daggerfall Covenant. Aldmeri Dominion, those races are High Elves, Wood Elves and Khajiit. And for the Ebonheart pack, there are Argonians, Dark Elves and Nords. Each of those races have their own skill lines, although it's way more of a passive skill line, giving you passive bonuses. Now, let's go through all of those racial skill passives, or passive lines. All races have 4 passive skills. Let's begin with the Bretons. Bretons focus on magicka and spell resistance. Opportunist skill increases their experience and gain with light armor skill by 15% and gives them more alliance points gained by 1%. Alliance points are a currency gained from PvP. This skill isn't that useful except for initial leveling of light armor. Gift of Magnus increases Breton's max magicka by 2000. Spell attunement increases spell resistance by 2310. This effect is doubled if the player is afflicted with burning, chilled or confused. It also increases magicka recovery by 130 points. Magicka mastery reduces the magicka cost of abilities by 7%. So, Bretons are focused on magicka, with balance between giving player more magicka and magicka recovery. It also decreases cost of abilities, and they gain more resistances. So Breton isn't that focused on doing damage, but being able to dish out more spells and having higher defense against magic. Next race are Orcs. So I will continue going through all the passive of races in the same order as I introduced the races. Immediately, I want to say that if you haven't played any Elder Scrolls games, Orcs aren't beasts like goblins. They are a kind of elf. Their lore is long, like with any other race in Elder Scrolls. So if you want lore of all the races, please search for it. There are tons of channels going through Elder Scrolls lore. Some go through it quickly, some in a funny, humorous way, some in a way of storytelling, and others go into great detail and squeeze all possible lore out of anything. There are many great channels. Don't listen to Pancreas No Work if it comes to elves. He's an elf propagandist, so yeah, don't listen to him if it comes to elf. Now, going from this ADHD detour, Orcs, Craftsmen. Their first skill gives them increased experience gain with heavy armor skill line by 15%. Also increases their crafting inspiration gain by 10%. So, great skill, great passive for quick leveling of heavy armor and crafting of all kinds. Crafting is very useful in Elder Scrolls Online, so this is a good passive. Brownie increases Orcs max stamina by 1000. Unflinching Rage increases Orcs max health by 1000. When Orcs deal damage, they heal for 2125 health. This can occur once every 4 seconds. Swift Warrior increases Orcs weapon and spell damage by 258, reduces the cost of sprint by 12%, and increases the movement speed bonus of sprint by 10%. Very good passive. So, the Orcs get bonuses to health, stamina and damage. This means this race is good for both stamina builds and tank builds. However, they don't get any upgrades to their magicka. Still, their stamina, their health and bonus to heavy armor makes them balanced for stamina rolls. They also make for good craftsmen, so the Orcs counterbalance the Bretons. One focus on magicka and defense, Orcs focus on health and regaining of it, and bonus stamina. Redguard. In Elder Scrolls games, Redguards are the sword race. They get the biggest or one of the biggest bonuses for blades. In the Elder Scrolls Online, it isn't any different. Redguards get strong bonuses for weapons and stamina. They focus more on damage but also get some tank passives. Wayfarer passive increases the experience gain with one hand and shield skill line by 10%. And increases the duration of any eaten food by 15 minutes. Martial training reduces the cost of weapon abilities by 8%, reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to the player by 15%. Conditioning increases max stamina by 2000. Adrenaline rush, the staple of Redguards when dealing damage. Redguards restore 1005 stamina. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds, sorry. So Redguards have strong bonuses to stamina as they should. Their increased stamina and additional sustains of it makes them perfect for stamina builds. They don't get any additional magicka just like Orcs. Redguards, however, reduce cost of weapon abilities by 8%. This doesn't specify the weapon, so it should work for all weapons, both stamina and magicka. They get some tank options like duration of eaten food by 15%. Food gives some good bonuses like increased health, magicka or stamina, so that's very good. They also learn sword and shield quicker by 15%. Still, they are stamina DPS first, tanks second, so opposite to Orcs, who seem to be tanks first and stamina DPS second. Now for the domain. High Elves. High Elves are pinnacle of magic when it comes to the Elder Scrolls. There isn't any difference here. Altmer get strong bonuses to magicka and focus on that. However, they get a tiny little bit of it if it comes to stamina. They also get bonus damage. Highborn increases experience gain with destruction staff skill line by 15%. Increases experience gained by 1%. So useful for leveling destruction staff to unleash even more magicka power quicker. They also gain 1% more XP, so if you are a hardcore grinder, that's the race for you. Spell charge. When you activate an ability, you restore 625 magicka or stamina, based on whichever is lowest. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. When you are using an ability with a channel or cast time, you take 5% less damage. Good bonus, really good, for Arcaneist for example. Restoration of magicka or stamina is always useful. Less damage taken is also always useful. Siren's Boon increases your magicka by 2000. Just pure increase of magicka, always useful. And Elemental Talent increases your weapon and spell damage by 258. So, Altmer focus on magicka. Their additional damage makes them an ideal magicka DPS, but their increased magicka pool and regeneration strengthens their DPS as well as their healing. So, Altmer are good for both magicka DPS and healing. Wood Elves or Bosmer. They get bonuses to bows and stamina. However, they also get bonuses to stealth. First race here to do so. Their passes go as follows. Acrobat increases your experience gain with bow skill line by 15%, decreases your fall damage by 10%. Fall damage decrease is useless. Bow skill line 15% is useful, but in ESO is basically like Witcher 3. If you fall from 2 meters instead of 1, you just die, so yeah, not that useful. Hunter's Eye increases your stealth detection by 3 meters, increases your movement speed by 5% and increases your physical and spell penetration by 950. Spell penetration is good for DPS. Bonus speed is also good. Stealth is useless, however, stealth detection can be pretty good, still not that useful. What the hell is this? Yifri's Endurance, okay, I think I got this correctly. Increases your stamina recovery by 258. Perfect passive for stamina builds. It's always useful to get a stamina recovery or health recovery or magical recovery. It's always good. Resist Affliction increases your max stamina by 2000 and increases your disease and poison resistance by 2310. Some good bonuses to stamina, useful for a DPS. However, I cannot see those passives being useful for anything else than that. Maybe for a tank, but I don't know how much disease and poison there is in the game. I don't know how useful these resistances are.
Khajiit has wares if you have coin.
Cut Purse increases your experience gain with medium armor skill line by 15%, increases your chance to successfully pickpocket by 5%. Robustness increases your health, magicka and stamina recovery by 90%. Useful. Lunar Blessing increases your maximum health, magicka and stamina by 915. Also very useful. Feline Ambush increases your critical damage and critical healing by 12%, decreases your detection radius and stealth by 3 meters. So, with those bonuses, Khajiit make for good everything. They get bonuses for healing and damage. They get bonuses to magicka, health and stamina, so Khajiit does everything fine, but not the best. So they can be okay tanks, but can be bad. They can be very good healers with the critical healing, but also great damage dealers with 12% critical damage.
Khajiit has it all if you build him good.
Emmonheart Pact. As a patriot of the Emmonheart Pact, my bias begins here. Argonians, the lustful lizards. Stupid old joke. Amphobian increases your experience gain with restoration staff skill line by 15%, increases your swimming speed by 50. Livemender increases your healing done by 6%. Argonian resistance increases your max health by 1000 and increases your disease and poison resistance by 2310. Resourceful increases your max magicka and stamina by 1000. When you drink a potion, you restore 3125 health, magicka and stamina. So these bonuses make for great healers and tanks. Their swimming speed is no joke. It's very useful for traveling. They get bonus health, bonus magicka, bonus stamina. Also restore more magicka and health and stamina when drinking potions, so useful for all classes. However, lack of bonus damage puts them as a disadvantage if it comes to being a DPS. However, they work great for tanks and healers with those great bonuses. Dmer, the Dark Elves, the master race. They go for 8th place here. Their bonuses go as follows. Ashwander increases your experience gain with dual wield skill line by 15%, reduces your damage taken from environmental lava by 50%. Dynamic increases your max magicka and stamina by 1910. Why didn't they do this just 2000? Would have been much better. Resist Flame increases your flame resistance by 4620. Just make it 5000, dude. Ruination increases your weapon and spell damage by 258. With those passives, Dmer make great DPSs for both magicka and stamina. And are their bonuses the best? No, but their race can go both ways without wasting those passive bonuses. Their less damage taken from lava is basically useless. Dual wield is always useful. It is the gold for stamina DPSs. Flame resistance is always useful, but other races have better tank and healing bonuses. Overall, for DPS, all ways are open for Dmer Nords. They get increased experience gain with two-handed skill line by 50%, increases the duration of any consumed drink by 15 minutes. That's the Reveler skill. Resist Frost increases your max health by 1000 and frost resistance by 4620. Stalwart increases your max stamina by 1500. When you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Rugged increases physical and spell resistance by 2600. So Nords are a race for tanks. More resistances, more health, longer increased recovery thanks to drinks. Nords also gain more ultimate. It's very useful for everything, so also healing and DPS. However, this race excels at tanking. Here, what bonus info? Food increases health, stamina and magicka. Drinks, they increase the recovery of those attributes. So now, to the classes. There are 7 classes. In my last video of Elder Scrolls I ate 1 class, I said there were 6, that's wrong, there are 7, and just choose the class which you will dislike the most for it to cease to exist, basically. So there are 7 classes as follows. Those classes are Dragon Knights, Knights of Stone and Fire, Sorcerers, Masters of Daedric Magic, Dark Arts and Lightning Energy, Nightblades, Master Assassins, Swift and Deadly Fighters with Powers of Blood, Templars, Knights and Clerics of the Aedra, Warriors of Light, Traveling Bastions of Hope, Wardens, Allies of Nature, Wayfaring Fighters balanced in all approaches of fighting, Druids and Masters of Bows, Necromancers, Masters of the Darkest Art, Puppeteers of the Dead, Emperors of Legions of the Damned, and last but not least are the Arcanists, those blessed or cursed with eldritch knowledge, keepers of secret tomes of Daedric power. Which class is the best? That's a question some people will ask themselves immediately. I will tell you this: the best class in Elder Scrolls Online is the one which sounds the coolest to you. So for example, if the Arcanist sounds the coolest, then he is the coolest. If Sorcerer sounds the coolest, he is the coolest. ESO has many options. All classes can be good at everything. However, let's speak about all of them in rough details, beginning with how I introduced them. So with the Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight. The name can already tell you everything. Knights with dragon powers, fire and stone. Great characters for tanks, thanks to their abilities giving them more resistance to damage. They also gain abilities to control the battlefield and self-healing. This makes them great for tanking. However, Dragon Knights aren't bad when it comes to doing damage. They have a lot of abilities doing fire damage, although they can also do some poison damage as well. If it comes to damage, they do better damage when it comes to their magicka counterpart. Still, their stamina path also does get damage, however less of it. Dragon Knights are poor healers, as their healing options are limited, but their self-healing is good for tanks thanks to the Dragon Blood skill. So overall, great tanks for the beginners and veterans alike, and great damage dealers. However, their healing can't be compared to other classes that will come later. Good races for Dragon Knights are Orcs, Nords and Dark Elves. Dark Elves are pretty much good for every single class. Sorcerers, Masters of Magic, great class like all of them. They do good damage, even great damage, especially in their magicka way. However, surprising to many people who haven't played the Elder Scrolls Online, they do good damage with stamina as well. Sorcerers can even be good tanks, yes, surprising. Their healing is good, but it's focused mostly on them and their pets. Sorcerer get access to 2 pets. Those pets can be either for healing or damage dealing. Sorcerer get strong damage skills, as well as good tanking skills. They also have great movement speed thanks to lightning form, which gives them more speed and resistance to damage, and also thanks to bolt escape, a short range teleport which can stun enemies. So sorcerers make great damage dealers, solo or with pets, good tanks, and like Dragon Knights, they make for poor healers, although a little better than Dragon Knights. Overall, I would say sorcerers aren't the best choice for beginners. Some knowledge of the game is useful before jumping into the class. Still, they are a great option. Best races for sorcerers are Magicka races, Bretons or High Elves. However, Nords and Dark Elves also can make good sorcerers. Nightblade, masters of dealing damage, the class probably with the highest damage potential in the game. This class is not the beginner friendly, like for example the Dragon Knight. It has good PvP potential with its stealth. Nightblades aren't only good at dealing damage, although they excel at that in both Magicka and Stamina paths. They can also tank and heal. Their healing options are, I would say, better than a Sorcerer. They are definitively better than the Dragon Knight, still not as great as options of other classes. They have ways for crowd control by terrifying their opponents, and healing of theirs works as a lifesteal, damaging enemies and healing both the Nightblade and their allies. Overall, this class can do it all, but it's a waste not using them for the great damage that they do. Other classes can simply heal or tank battle. Still, Nightblade can be a good healer or tank. They simply won't be great at it. Good races for a Nightblade are Khajiit for damage, Dark Elves for balance, High Elves for Magicka, Orcs for balance of health and damage, and Nords for the pure surviving. Nords for surviving, okay? Templars, warriors and clerics of light, champions of the Aedra. They are the first class that makes for great healers, thanks to their many healing skills and their great AoE heals. They don't do that great if it comes to tanking, but thanks to their healing abilities, instead of resisting the damage, they can heal the damage they take, so maybe they can be good tanks if done correctly. Their damage potential isn't bad. They can also dish out excellent damage in their Magicka path, but can also do some good damage when it comes to stamina. Overall, Templars, just like Dragon Knights, are a good choice for beginners. They are a very easy class to get into and play. If it comes to the races for Templars, really any race can do. High Elves and Bretons for Magicka, Red Guards for stamina, Argonians for healers, and Dark Elves to have all the options open, and Khajiit to have all the options open, but options for a DPS. Wardens. At first sight, this class may look like a jack of all trades, master of none, but as the full saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none is still better than the master of one, and Wardens are a jack of all trades and the master of one. They are good for damage, both Magicka and stamina, and make for good tanks. Of course, a Nightblade will do more damage, a Sorcerer as well. A Dragon Knight will be a better tank, but Warden can do it all. Wardens are excellent. Are they excellent as those other classes in their category? No. But Wardens can be good or close to excellent at everything. However, when it comes to healing, Wardens can fight the Templars for the best healers in the game. Their healing is strong, just like healing of Templars. Their healing abilities can even do some damage to enemies while they heal. So here it depends. If you like Templar more, then you choose Templar. If you like Warden more, then you choose Warden. Races for Wardens are Dark Elves for balance, High Elves for Bretons. High Elves for Bretons? What? Well, that's lore accurate, but no. High Elves or Bretons for Magicka or tanks. Khajiit for damage, but just like with being a jack of all trades, every race is good for a Warden. Necromancers, masters of dark arts. Immediately I will inform you that this class is not for beginners, and this is the class I have the least knowledge about. Their art of magic is illegal, that's why players have to be careful not to use their abilities in towns or near them. Using them when a guard sees you will get you killed. Guards are no joke, like just 5 of them could be like Molag just grab 5 random guards from like Vanderfell and just send him at Molag and Molag dies. But returning to the Necromancer, as the class suggests, they summon undead minions to fight and protect them. They do some good damage, but not nearly as good as a Nightblade, for example. However, they shine when it comes to tanking and can do some pretty good healing. They are the only class which can resurrect players with one of their ultimates. They have life-stealing abilities which damages their enemies and heals necromancers and their allies, just like the Nightblade. This combined with abilities to enhance their healing and defense makes them great tanks. They can also do some damage by summoning minions who do elemental damage like frost and fire. The race for Necromancer depends. If you want to do damage, Dark Elf is good, Khajiit for more critical, High Elf is good for magic builds, both damage and tanking, Nords are good for tanking. Arcanists, keepers of eldritch knowledge. Arcanists, as the newest class in the game, may have some recency bias. They don't do anything poorly or average like some other classes. They do everything well and some things they do excellently. For example, damage. Both their stamina and magicka is excellent if it comes to damage. Their abilities are strong and this class is used a lot in PvP battlegrounds because of this. So much so, they became my #1 nemesis when it comes to PvP. This class has a crux mechanics. Basically, some abilities of theirs give them small floating triangles around them. The more you have up to 3, the more damage some of your skills do. This makes Arcaneist an interesting DPS with this mechanic. Does this make them hard to play? No, I wouldn't say so. It just makes them more interesting and maybe takes a longer time to get used to. Arcanists are good tanks, they have skills giving them more defense and good heals for backup. They are also the only class with a taunt ability, making them best at keeping enemies on you. Their healing is good, but Templars and Wardens are simply better. Overall, Arcanists are great for a second class, when the player is done learning the basics with simpler classes, like for example the Templar. But they are also fine for jumping right into if you want everything to be open, just like with the Warden. Races for Arcanists go as follow: Nords for tanks, Dark Elf for balance, High Elves for healing, or Argonian for healing. Having went through all of the races, that doesn't sound good. Okay, never mind. I just realized Wood Elves are basically useless. I'm sorry, Wood Elf fans. Bethesda, Zenimax, fix the Wood Elves, give them some more bonuses, they deserve it. However, in this game, with so many options, meta can be changed at any moment, so the race you actually use doesn't matter. Of course, you can get some bonuses, but you have to unlock these bonuses, these passives, by using skill points. So basically, these race abilities, you may skip them and play exactly as you want. Now, which classes are the best for beginners and which ones are easy? Which ones are harder? Templar and Dragonist are easiest to jump into, like I said. They don't have any special mechanics, their skills are simple. It's easy to build them and play them. Arcanists and Wardens are in the middle. They give you all the options, therefore, those classes can be a little bit overwhelming for new players. Arcanists have the crux mechanic and the Wardens have timed abilities. Those classes, I think, make good for a second character, or if you want to jump into something harder, they are good for that. Sorcerers can be both easy and hard. They have a lot of options, their mobility is great, and they have many useful abilities which a player wants to use. Because of those many abilities, this class can be a little too much for new players, but there's an easy way to play this class. You do a heavy attack build, you put a lightning staff, and you just hold left mouse and that's it. The enemies just self-delete. So Sorcerer can be made into an easy class. Nightblade and Necromancers are the hardest to play. Nightblades have a lot of mobility, life-stealing abilities, stealth, clone abilities. It is a little bit much for a new player. The same goes for a Necromancer, many minions to summon, corpses mechanics, life-stealing, resurrecting, and also getting caught by guards if you use these abilities of the Necromancers in public. So that can be a little bit much for a new player. Now, you heard everything what I have spoken about. You may throw it all away, because the best class and the best way to play ESO, the Elder Scrolls Online, is the way you want to play. I told you information about ESO. I didn't speak about weapon skills, but weapon skills, guild skills and alliances skills make it so you can play any way you want. You want to play a Dragon Knight healer, go to the restoration staff and just pick restoration staff abilities. You can do that. Are you gonna be the best healer? No, but you can do it. ESO has a lot of options. You can even make a good build, a strong build, without using class abilities. So play as you want. If you want to learn more about ESO, if you want to learn more about classes, abilities, races, builds, go to the other great ESO players like Hack the Minotaur or Alcasthq. They have many builds and lots of information, much of which I used in this video. Thank you, Hack the Minotaur and Alcasthq, for gathering so much information, for making such builds. Thank you for this. If you want to learn about weapons, guild skills, alliances, you may wait for my video. I will do a video on those skill lines. I will only go through rough basics of it. If you want to learn about those things more, then go to those great ESO content creators and also other content creators. There are many. So now thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then like the video. If you disliked, dislike. But please tell me what you dislike. If you don't tell me what you dislike, I will not learn, because I don't know what I will do, what I do wrong. So please give me the feedback. What do I do wrong? What do I do good? Subscribe if you liked the video, and goodbye. Just one more thing. I was forgetting something. Remember, once again, remember, the best way to play is the way you want to play. And now, really, goodbye.